Commander Lisa Martin took a deep breath as she straightened her blue diplomatic uniform. The fabric felt tight around her neck, but the discomfort helped her stay focused. She stood alone at the entrance of the massive chamber where the Galactic Council had gathered for their emergency session. Through the giant doors, she could see hundreds of alien representatives already seated in the curved rows that formed a perfect circle around the central speaking platform. "Are you ready, Commander?" asked Paul Willis, her civilian assistant who carried a simple data tablet. "As ready as I'll ever be," Lisa replied. She glanced behind her at the small Earth delegation, 5 cultural specialists and 3 political analysts. Not a single military officer among them. No uniforms except her own diplomatic blues. The massive doors slid open with a soft hiss. All eyes turned to the humans as they entered. Lisa could feel the stares and hear the whispers. "Only 8? Where are the rest? No military again. Strange humans. Do they not understand the seriousness of this threat?" Lisa walked with perfect posture to the Earth's assigned position, her team following in a neat line behind her. The Dratchid Imperium delegates across the chamber narrowed their yellow eyes at her. Their gray scales shimmered under the bright lights as they whispered to each other behind clawed hands. Ambassador Cathorax of the Venzari Collective approached Lisa before she could take her seat. The tall, thin alien's 4 arms were positioned in what Lisa recognized as a gesture of respect, but his face showed concern. "Commander Martin," Thorax said through his translator device, "I mean no disrespect, but this emergency session concerns the military movements of the Dratchid near your colonies. All other species have brought their defense leaders. Where are yours?" Lisa smiled politely, just as she had during the last 4 interspecies crises. "Earth believes peace summits should be attended by those trained in peace. Ambassador, my team is fully authorized to represent Earth's interests." Thorax's skin changed color slightly, a sign of confusion in his species. "But the Dratchid have brought their war commander. The Talarians have their entire defense council present. Even the peaceful Araxi have military advisors with them." "We have different protocols," Lisa explained simply. "I assure you we take this situation very seriously." Thorax nodded, clearly unsatisfied but unwilling to push further. As he walked away, Lisa finally sat down at the Earth station. Paul leaned toward her. "Same questions every time," he whispered. "And the same answer every time," Lisa replied. But she couldn't tell anyone the real reason. Not even Paul knew about Directive 7A, established 70 years ago after humanity's first and only exception to this rule. The directive was simple. Under no circumstances shall Earth military personnel be present at interspecies diplomatic functions. The reason behind it remained classified at the highest levels. The council president, a large gelatinous being from a water world, moved to the center platform. The chamber fell silent. "This emergency session is now in progress," the president announced, voice translated into all known languages simultaneously. "We gather to address the concerning military buildup of Dratchid forces near human colonies in the Arcturus sector." The Dratchid war commander stood immediately, his scales flaring in a display of dominance. "The humans have violated our territorial claims. We have detected suspicious activity on their so-called civilian outposts." All eyes turned to Lisa. With calm that came from years of training, she stood and walked to the central platform. No notes, no military advisors whispering in her ear. Just her voice representing all of humanity. "Earth extends greetings to the honored council," she began. "The Dratchid concerns are based on incomplete information. What they have detected are standard terraforming operations, fully compliant with Galactic Charter regulations." As she spoke, Lisa couldn't help but think about the real reason she stood there alone, without Earth's military beside her. If they only knew the truth, this room would empty quickly. Some things were better left unsaid. Some fears were better left unconfirmed. Because the real reason Earth never brought their military to peace summits wasn't about peace at all. The year was 2157, and humanity was still finding its place among the stars. The sleek diplomatic ship Unity moved silently through space toward Proxima Centauri, where representatives from 12 alien civilizations would gather to sign the historic accords. This summit would officially welcome Earth into the Galactic Alliance. Captain Daniel Frost stood by the viewport, watching the stars blur past. His dress uniform felt stiff and uncomfortable. Next to him, Lieutenant Olivia Rice adjusted her collar for the 5th time. "Stop fidgeting," Daniel said quietly. "We're making history today." "We're only here as observers," Olivia reminded him. "First and only military personnel ever sent to an alien peace summit." Daniel nodded. "A goodwill gesture. Show them we trust them enough to reveal our military protocols." The 2 officers represented Earth's combined space forces. Their presence at the Proxima Centauri Accords was meant to demonstrate transparency and build trust with the alien species humans had only recently discovered existed. Ambassador Greg Howard approached them, his civilian clothes a stark contrast to their formal uniforms. "Captain, Lieutenant, we're docking in 10 minutes. Remember the briefing. Observe only. Speak when spoken to. No sudden movements around the Krell. They startle easily." "Yes, sir," both officers replied together. The grand meeting hall of the Proxima Centauri station sparkled with light reflected off crystalline walls. Representatives from across the galaxy mingled before the formal proceedings. Daniel and Olivia stood slightly behind Ambassador Howard, watching silently as instructed. The Argulans, tall blue-skinned beings with 4 eyes, spoke in musical tones nearby. The dog-sized Venzeri scuttled on 6 legs between groups, facilitating introductions. In the corner, the insectoid Krell delegation kept to themselves, their shiny exoskeletons clicking when they moved. "Remarkable," Daniel whispered to Olivia. "All these different evolutionary paths leading to space travel." The formal proceedings began with each species taking their designated place at the circular table. Ambassador Howard presented Earth's credentials, while Daniel and Olivia stood at attention behind him. The signing ceremony progressed smoothly until it was the Krell delegation's turn. As their ambassador rose, the 7 Krell suddenly turned as one toward the Argulan representatives. They let out high-pitched screeches and lunged forward with their sharp front limbs extended. Daniel and Olivia reacted instantly. Years of training took over. Daniel grabbed a ceremonial staff from the wall display and swept 2 Krell off their feet in one smooth motion. Olivia vaulted over the table, placing herself between the attackers and the Argulan ambassador. She deflected a strike with her forearm and delivered a precise blow to a sensitive joint on the nearest Krell. Within 30 seconds, all 7 Krell attackers lay immobilized on the floor. Daniel stood with the staff at ready position, while Olivia maintained a defensive stance, her breathing barely elevated. The hall fell completely silent. Ambassador Howard's face had gone pale. The Argulans stared with all 4 eyes widened. The Venzeri representatives had retreated to the far wall. "They were going to kill the Argulans," Daniel said, breaking the silence. "We had to act." An elder Argulan stepped forward, his translator device crackling. "Kill." "No, human. You misunderstood." The Krell were performing the ritual of 7 steps, an ancient ceremony showing respect before treaty signing. Those limb movements were ceremonial gestures. Olivia lowered her hand slowly. But they screeched and rushed forward. "That is their way," the Argulan explained. "The sounds express joy. The movement is ritual dance." Medical staff hurried to the fallen Krell. Reports came quickly. 3 had cracked exoskeletons. 1 had a dislocated limb. None were critically injured, thanks only to their natural armor. Daniel placed the staff down carefully. "I don't understand." It looked like a clear attack pattern. The Galactic Alliance security chief, a tall reptilian being, approached with a medical scanner in hand. He passed it over Daniel and Olivia, then looked at the readings with an expression of shock. "Ambassador Howard," he said quietly, "your military observers responded with incredible speed and force. Our scans show their bodies didn't even enter full stress response before neutralizing perceived threats. Howard nodded grimly. They're trained to protect. No, the security chief corrected. What we just witnessed goes beyond training. Your species reacts to threats with efficiency no other spacefaring race possesses. As Daniel and Olivia were escorted back to their ship, rumors already spread among the delegates. The humans had moved too fast, hit too hard, shown no fear. And perhaps most disturbing of all, one delegate claimed the female officer had briefly smiled during the confrontation. The incident was contained and explained away as a cultural misunderstanding. The accords were eventually signed, but something fundamental had changed in how the galaxy viewed their newest members. Jack Norris rubbed his tired eyes as he sat in his office at the Earth Diplomatic Center. The view of the Rocky Mountains through his window usually calmed him, but not today. As Director of Xenopolitical Affairs, he had just received the latest psychological assessment of Earth's position in galactic politics. The data told a disturbing story. He tapped the screen to call Dr. Kate Sullivan. Her face appeared moments later, the Mars Research Facility visible behind her. Kate, I've read your report 3 times. Are you absolutely certain about these findings? Kate adjusted her glasses and nodded. All the data points to the same conclusion. Jack, the other species see us as the sleeping giant of the galaxy. Their diplomatic records show consistent patterns of concern about humanity. Jack sighed. But we've been nothing but peaceful since joining the Galactic Alliance. We've followed every regulation, contributed to joint scientific missions, offered humanitarian aid. It's not what we've done, Kate explained. It's what they believe we could do. Jack motioned for her to continue. Most spacefaring species evolved past their aggressive instincts before developing advanced technology, or they never had them to begin with. The Ardulans were always herbivores with complex social structures. The Venzeri evolved from colony organisms that value group harmony. Even the Krell, despite their fearsome appearance, are dedicated to ritualistic behavior over actual combat. Jack leaned forward. And humans. We're different. We're essentially clever apes who figured out spaceflight while still carrying all our predatory instincts. The combination of our intelligence, adaptability, endurance, and capacity for violence is unique in the known galaxy. Kate sent additional files to his screen. Jack scrolled through reports from alien cultural attaches describing humans. The phrases jumped out at him. Terrifyingly casual about physical harm. Possessing unnerving pain tolerance. Disturbingly quick to improvise weapons. Continue functioning despite injuries that would incapacitate any rational being. One report specifically mentioned a human construction worker who had continued working after a metal rod pierced his hand, simply wrapping it with cloth until the day's work was done. The alien observer had been horrified, noting that any member of their species would have gone into immediate biological shutdown from such trauma. So Directive 7A isn't about protecting our military secrets, Jack realized aloud. It's about not scaring our allies. Precisely, Kate replied. When other species see our soldiers in action, even in training exercises, they don't see allies. They see apex predators. The incident at Proxima Centauri proved that. Jack opened the classified file on that incident. Captain Frost and Lieutenant Reyes had neutralized 7 Krell in 30 seconds, using only improvised weapons and hand-to-hand combat. Medical scans afterward showed their heart rates had barely elevated during the confrontation. The most telling part, Kate continued, is that neither officer activated their emergency implants. They didn't think the situation warranted chemical enhancement. Jack looked up sharply. You mean they weren't even operating at full capacity? Not even close. And that terrifies the other species. Jack stared out the window again, thinking. We've been isolating our military to seem less threatening. It's working. Our diplomatic teams report increased cooperation across all sectors. The absence of our military at peace talks has become our greatest diplomatic tool. The other species feel safer. A new message flashed on Jack's screen. The Dratchid Imperium had just issued demands regarding human colonies in the Arcturus sector. "Looks like we have another crisis brewing," Jack said. "Commander Martin is already at the Galactic Council emergency session." "Alone?" Kate asked. "With civilian advisors only," Jack confirmed. As always. Kate's expression grew serious. "The Dratchid are more aggressive than most species we've encountered. If they're making demands, something has changed." Jack pulled up the latest intelligence reports. 3 months ago, a Dratchid scout ship encountered one of our patrol vessels near the Arcturus sector. There was a brief engagement before the Dratchid retreated. "So they've seen what we can do," Kate said quietly. "Yes, and now they're frightened." Jack closed the files and stood up. "I need to brief the President. If the Dratchid have witnessed our military capabilities firsthand, this situation just became much more complex." As he gathered his materials, Jack couldn't help but remember the conclusion of Kate's report. "Humanity's greatest weapon in galactic politics isn't our technology or even our physical capabilities. It's the fear and awe we inspire simply by existing." The main chamber of the Galactic Council had grown tense. Commander Lisa Martin stood firm at the central podium, while the Dratchid ambassador paced in front of his delegation. His gray scales flared with angry red spots, a sign of extreme agitation in his species. The human colonies in the Arcturus sector must be abandoned immediately. The Dratchid ambassador slammed his tentacle-like arm on the table. The translator barely kept up with his rapid speech. "If not, we will consider it an act of war." Many council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The word war was rarely spoken in this chamber. Some younger species had never known true interstellar conflict. Lisa maintained perfect composure. Her face showed only polite interest, as if they were discussing trade routes instead of threats. "Ambassador," she said calmly, "those colonies have been legally established under Galactic Charter Article 12. The planets were uninhabited, and we followed all proper registration procedures. They pose no threat to Dratchid interests." The Dratchid hissed, his forked tongue flicking out briefly. "Then explain the military installations we have detected." Lisa didn't miss a beat. She tapped her data pad, and holographic schematics appeared in the center of the chamber. "These are standard terraforming facilities. Nothing more. I invite your inspectors to verify this themselves." The Dratchid's translator conveyed his skepticism with a harsh mechanical tone. "Terraforming facilities do not need radiation shielding of that thickness. Earth planets require specific atmospheric compositions," Lisa explained patiently. "The radiation shields protect the delicate bacterial cultures we use in our terraforming process. Again, I welcome your scientific experts to examine them." Paul Willis, Lisa's assistant, passed her a secure data tablet with a message from Earth Intelligence. She read it quickly while pretending to check colony specifications. The message confirmed what she had suspected. The Dratchid had encountered an Earth military vessel 3 months ago. The incident had been classified, but now she understood the real reason behind their aggression. The Earth patrol ship Horizon had been investigating unusual energy signatures near the edge of human space when a Dratchid scout ship attacked without warning. The human crew had defended themselves, disabling the alien vessel's weapons systems before retreating. What should have been a minor border incident had clearly left a much deeper impression on the Dratchid than anyone realized. They had witnessed humanity's combat capabilities firsthand. Now they were terrified of what a full human military presence near their territory might mean. Lisa looked back at the Dratchid ambassador. His eyes darted nervously around the room despite his aggressive posture. She recognized fear disguised as anger. "Perhaps we can reach a compromise," Lisa offered. "While we maintain our legal right to those colonies, Earth is willing to establish a neutral zone along the border of the Arcturus sector. No military vessels from either side would patrol this region." The offer was meaningless. Earth had no military installations in that sector anyway. But it would give the Dratchid a way to save face. The Dratchid ambassador conferred quickly with his advisors. Their whispers were too low for the translator to catch, but Lissa noticed how their scales gradually settled back to their normal gray color. "We will consider this proposal," the ambassador finally said, "but we require more substantial guarantees of human containment." The word choice wasn't lost on Lisa. They didn't want resources or territory. They wanted assurance that humans wouldn't expand further toward their space. Ambassador Cathorax of the Venzari Collective raised a thin arm. Perhaps a joint monitoring system could be established, both Drachid and human observers working together. Lisa nodded. Earth would welcome such cooperation. She knew this suggestion was perfect. It would force regular contact between humans and Drachid under peaceful conditions. The more they interacted with ordinary human scientists and diplomats, the less they would fear the boogeyman of human military might. As the council broke for recess, Lisa sent a secure message back to Director Norris. Drachid fear confirmed. They've seen what we can do. Proceeding with containment narrative. She watched the Drachid delegation across the room. They kept glancing at her, then quickly looking away when she met their gaze. Their body language told the real story. They weren't angry. They were afraid. And fear, Lisa knew, was both more dangerous and more useful than any weapon in their arsenal. General Andrew Hayes stood with his hands clasped behind his back as he watched the holographic simulation unfold in the secure bunker deep below the lunar surface. The room was dimly lit, with the blue glow of the projection casting shadows on the faces of the Joint Chiefs, gathered around the circular table. "Run it again," he ordered. "Scenario 735. Colonel Ryan Bailey nodded and tapped a series of commands into his control pad. The hologram reset, showing a star field with red markers for Drachid ships and blue markers for Earth vessels. "This is our 10th run of this specific encounter," Ryan explained to the others. "The tactical computer has processed over 10,000 possible scenarios of conflict with the Drachid Imperium." The simulation began to play. Red ships moved in perfect formation toward the blue human positions. The first wave of attacks eliminated nearly 30% of the human fleet. But then the pattern changed. The blue markers broke formation, regrouped in unexpected ways, and began a series of seemingly random maneuvers. "Note the Drachid response." Ryan pointed at the red ships. "Their attack strategy falls apart when faced with adaptive tactics." Indeed, the hologram showed the red ships faltering, unable to adjust to the unpredictable movements of the human vessels. Within minutes, the tide had turned completely. "Even their most advanced warships can't handle prolonged combat," Ryan continued. "The Drachid evolved from hive-dwelling herbivores. Their entire military doctrine relies on overwhelming first strikes because they lack endurance." General Hayes frowned. "And if the first strike fails?" "Their entire strategy collapses," Ryan said simply. "They have no concept of guerrilla warfare, asymmetric tactics, or fighting through injuries. A human with a broken arm will keep fighting. A Drachid with equivalent damage enters a biological shutdown state to preserve the hive." Admiral Maria Ortiz, the newest member of the Joint Chiefs, spoke up from her seat at the table. "The psychological factor is even more significant than the tactical one. The simulations show we would lose many ships in their initial attack, but after that," she paused, searching for the right words, "it wouldn't be a war, it would be a slaughter." The room fell silent as the simulation concluded. The final tally appeared in the air. 72% of human forces survived. 97% of Drachid forces eliminated. "And that's why Commander Martin is handling this alone," Hayes said grimly. "Because if the Drachid knew what our military assessment actually shows, they'd attack immediately, while they think they have a chance." Ryan finished. General Hayes walked slowly around the hologram, studying it from all angles. "What about their home systems? Would they fight differently there?" Ryan shook his head. "That's the most disturbing part, sir. According to our xenobiologists, the Drachid simply cannot comprehend fighting to the last. Once their forces reach about 40% casualties, their collective psychology demands surrender to preserve the species." Maria pulled up additional data on her screen. The incident 3 months ago with the patrol ship Horizon confirms this. The Drachid scout attacked, likely expecting our ship to flee or surrender. Instead, the Horizon crew returned fire with precision that disabled only their weapon systems. And that single encounter sent them into a panic, Hayes mused. Yes, sir, Maria confirmed. Their entire foreign policy shifted afterward. What terrified them most wasn't that we fought back, but how we fought back. The crew suffered damage to their life support systems during the exchange, but continued fighting efficiently while making repairs. Ryan zoomed in on the simulation data. To the Drachid, this behavior is incomprehensible. Their military doctrine has no framework for understanding a species that can compartmentalize pain, adapt tactics mid-battle, and show restraint while under attack. Hayes nodded slowly. So they're not at the negotiating table because they want our territory. No, sir, Ryan agreed. They're there because they're terrified of what might happen if they don't contain us now. The general's personal communicator beeped. It was a message from Director Norris. Martin Repape Ortiz Negotiations Proceeding DRACA Sepetting neutral zone Paropiosale. Hayes showed the message to the others. It seems our diplomatic approach is working. Sometimes the most effective strategy is to keep your strongest weapons hidden. Maria looked back at the simulation's final results. And right now, we are the weapon they fear most. The hologram continued to rotate slowly in the center of the room, the tiny blue and red ships frozen in their final positions. The outcome was clear to everyone present. The Drachid never stood a chance. The Galactic Council reconvened after a short recess. Lissa Martin took her seat at the Earth station, carefully reviewing the notes Paul had prepared for her. The Drachid delegation seemed calmer now, their scales back to their natural gray color. This was a good sign. Lisa kept her face neutral as she processed the latest information from Earth's hidden tactical team. According to their analysis, the Drachid were positioning for concessions they didn't actually want. Their demands about the Arcturus colonies were just a smokescreen. Their real goal was intelligence gathering on human military capability. A clever tactic, Lisa had to admit. Force Earth to reveal defensive plans for those colonies, and perhaps learn something about human strategic thinking in the process. The Council recognizes Earth's representative, announced the Council President from the center platform. Lisa stood and walked to the speaking position with measured steps. Thank you, President. After careful consideration, Earth is prepared to offer a comprehensive proposal to address Drachid concerns. She activated a holographic display showing the Arcturus sector. We could consider establishing a demilitarized zone along this border region. Earth will commit to not placing military assets within this zone, and we welcome Drachid verification teams to confirm compliance. It was a perfectly calculated offer. Earth had no military installations in that sector anyway, just the terraforming colonies. The Drachid would get to inspect the area and confirm this for themselves, which would hopefully ease their fears. The Drachid ambassador's eyes narrowed. What about the existing facilities? The ones you claim are for terraforming only. Those remain, as they are civilian operations, Lisa replied calmly. But your experts are welcome to inspect them to verify their purpose. The Drachid conferred among themselves again. Lissa could see frustration in their body language. They hadn't gotten what they really wanted, information about Earth's military capabilities. When the formal session ended for the day, Lisa returned to her temporary quarters to prepare for the next round of talks. She was reviewing population data from the Arcturus colonies when there was a soft knock at her door. Enter, she called. Ambassador Chesrick of the Folari Republic stepped inside. The tall, thin alien was known for his neutrality in galactic politics. His species had been spacefaring for thousands of years before humans discovered fire, and they often served as mediators in difficult negotiations. Commander Martin, Chesrick greeted her with a slight bow. May I speak frankly with you? Lisa gestured to a chair. Of course, Ambassador, I always appreciate your insights. Chitrik sat down carefully, his long limbs folding gracefully. The Drachid fear humans, he said without preamble. After the incident with their scout ship 3 months ago, rumors have spread through their military ranks. Lisa kept her expression neutral. What rumors? That the human vessel's crew continued fighting even after life support failed. That your soldiers communicated and coordinated despite physical separation. That some of them, Chitrik hesitated, his translator device clicking as it searched for the right words, smiled during combat. Lisa nodded slowly. Thank you for your candor, Ambassador. These things are unnatural to them, Chitrik continued. The Drachid function as a unit. Individual initiative during crisis situations is not part of their evolutionary heritage. They cannot understand how humans operate under stress. So their demands about our colonies are merely their way of testing human responses, Chitrik confirmed. They wish to understand you better. After the ambassador left, Lisa immediately sent a coded message to Director Norris. Advantage co and FI armid. Proceed with STRTG Omega. Strategy Omega was simple but elegant. Rather than hiding human military capabilities or flaunting them, Earth would continue sending only diplomatic teams to all interspecies meetings. Let the Drachid and others wonder. Let them imagine. The absence of military personnel would speak louder than their presence ever could. Lisa looked out the viewport at the stars beyond. Somewhere out there, the Drachid were preparing for tomorrow's negotiations, probably expecting Earth to eventually bring military advisors as tensions increased. They didn't understand that this was never going to happen. The greatest victory in diplomacy was the one achieved without firing a shot. And Earth's greatest diplomatic weapon was precisely what wasn't in the room: their military. Dr. Sam Foster stood in front of the large screen in the Pentagon's Strategy Division. The room was filled with military officials and government representatives, all watching as he displayed physiological profiles of major galactic species. His presentation had been called on short notice as the situation with the Drachid continued to develop. The evidence is clear, Sam said, pointing to the comparative charts. By galactic standards, humans are terrifying. Secretary Elizabeth Ward raised an eyebrow. Dr. Foster, we're not the strongest species out there. Not by a long shot. No, we're not, Sam agreed. The Gertland can lift 10 times what we can. The Venzeri can survive in vacuum for hours. The Argulans live 3 times longer than us. But they've never developed combat techniques because they never needed to. He switched to another slide showing evolutionary trees of various species. It's our combination of traits that's unique. Our endurance, pain tolerance, adaptability, and most importantly, our psychology. The screen changed to show recordings from training exercises. Human soldiers continuing through obstacle courses despite injuries. Combat medics working under fire. Marines adapting tactics mid-exercise when faced with unexpected challenges. We're the only known species that has institutionalized warfare, Sam continued. We developed medicine initially to keep soldiers fighting. We created psychology partly to understand combat stress. Even our sports are often based on combat principles. NSA analyst Carla Peterson raised her hand. So when the Drachid scout ship encountered our patrol vessel 3 months ago, they witnessed behaviors their species can't comprehend, Sam confirmed. According to the patrol ship's logs, our crew treated injuries and kept fighting. They adapted tactics mid-battle when communications were damaged. They showed controlled aggression rather than blind panic. He pulled up footage from the ship's internal cameras. It showed human crew members calmly sealing off damaged sections, rerouting systems, applying field medicine to wounded colleagues, and continuing to return fire in coordinated patterns. To the Drachid, this wasn't just combat, it was horror, Sam explained. Their entire military doctrine is based on overwhelming force in the first strike. If that fails, they retreat to regroup. The concept of continuing to fight while injured is alien to them. And now they're at the negotiating table because they're afraid, concluded Secretary Ward. Exactly. They don't want our territory. They want reassurance we won't come for theirs. Admiral Frank Daniels, who had been quiet until now, finally spoke up. Dr. Foster, your analysis suggests our absence at these peace talks is actually more effective than our presence would be. Correct. Sam nodded. Precisely, Admiral. When other species don't see our military, they're left to imagine what we're capable of. And their imagination, fueled by the few glimpses they've had of us in action, creates a far more formidable picture than reality. The Admiral looked thoughtful. So by sending only diplomatic personnel, we're actually projecting more power than if we sent our best generals. Human military absence has become our most effective diplomatic tool, Sam agreed. It's psychological warfare at its finest, but entirely defensive. We're not threatening anyone. We're simply allowing them to draw their own conclusions about why we keep our military personnel away from these functions. Secretary Ward checked her secure tablet as a new message arrived. Commander Martin reports the Dratchid have accepted our proposal for a neutral zone and inspection protocols. The room fell silent as everyone processed this information. They're backing down, Admiral Daniels said finally, without us firing a single shot or making a single threat. Sam closed his presentation. The galaxy is learning that humans are dangerous, but we're also reasonable. We don't want conflict. We just want to exist peacefully. And if that peace is partly maintained by other species being too afraid to attack us, asked Carla, then we accept that reality, Secretary Ward answered firmly. The first rule of diplomacy is to understand how others perceive you. If they see us as predators, we don't try to convince them otherwise. We simply show we're predators with restraint, predators who prefer peace. As the meeting concluded, Sam couldn't help but think about the humans currently stationed at the furthest colonies in the Arcturus sector. They had no idea they were being viewed as the most dangerous beings in the galaxy. They were just scientists, engineers, and families trying to build new lives. That was perhaps the most ironic part of all. The species that other galactic civilizations feared most was primarily made up of people who just wanted to explore, create, and live in harmony with the universe. The Peace Summit concluded successfully after 3 more days of careful negotiations. The Dratchid accepted Earth's minimal concessions, and the crisis was averted without a single military officer present in the Earth delegation. Lissa Martin stood on the observation deck of the diplomatic vessel that would take her team back to Earth, watching as the massive Galactic Council station grew smaller in the viewport. Another successful mission, Paul said, joining her at the window. The Dratchid seemed almost eager to sign the final agreement. Lisa nodded. They got what they really wanted. Reassurance. That we won't invade their territory, Paul asked. That we're reasonable, Lisa corrected. That humans can be negotiated with. As her assistant left to prepare for the jump to faster-than-light travel, Lissa noticed Ambassador Thorax approaching. The Venzeri had requested passage to Earth for a cultural exchange program, and Lissa had happily agreed. Commander, I've served in galactic diplomacy for 40 Earth years, the Venzeri said, his translator making his voice sound surprisingly melodic. I've always wondered, why does Earth maintain this peculiar protocol of sending only diplomatic personnel to security councils? Lisa had been asked this question many times before, but usually not so directly. She considered her words carefully. Ambassador, what do you consider Earth's greatest strength? Thorax's translator hesitated before responding. Your adaptability, perhaps. Your unusual creativity. Those are important, Lisa acknowledged. But our greatest strength is understanding how others perceive us. The Venzeri tilted his head. A gesture Lisa had learned indicated curiosity in his species. An interesting perspective. Most species believe their technology or resource wealth to be their advantage. Those things change, Lisa said simply. Understanding never loses its value. The ship's captain announced they were preparing for departure. Lisa excused herself and went to her private cabin. Once inside, She activated her secure terminal and began reviewing the classified after-action report from the summit. The surveillance data confirmed their strategy had worked perfectly. During the final negotiations, hidden sensors had detected the Drakshid representatives' physical reactions whenever Earth was mentioned. Their stress hormones had decreased significantly from the first day to the last. Their body language had shifted from defensive to cautiously relaxed. The mere absence of human military personnel had been more effective than any show of force could have been. In a galaxy where most species evolved without predatory instincts, humanity's controlled restraint, keeping their soldiers conspicuously away from diplomatic functions, communicated more effectively than any demonstration of power ever could. Lisa attached her own notes to the report. The Drakshid incident confirms our long-term diplomatic strategy remains effective. By allowing other species to see only our diplomatic face, while keeping our military capability as an unseen but suspected presence, we maintain the perfect balance between respect and fear. She paused, then added one final thought. Perhaps the greatest achievement of humanity isn't our technology or our strength, but our ability to understand how others see us, and to use that understanding to maintain peace. As she sent the encrypted report to Director Norris, Lisa thought about the many species she'd encountered in her years of service. Each had their own unique characteristics, their own evolutionary path that had brought them to the stars. But only humans had evolved as both predator and prey, both warrior and diplomat, both scientist and soldier. The ship entered faster than light travel with a slight shudder. Lisa looked at the swirling colors outside her viewport and smiled. Somewhere out there, the Drakshid were telling their leaders about the reasonable humans who had agreed to their terms, who had allowed inspections, who had compromised. They would never know how close they had come to discovering just how dangerous humans could truly be. And if Lisa and her team did their jobs right, they never would. Director Norris had added a final note to their mission briefing. The most effective weapon in our arsenal isn't our military capability, but the galaxy's imagination of what that capability might be. As Earth's diplomats traveled home, their military remained exactly where it belonged, out of sight, but never entirely out of mind.